IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today we have a very interesting guest with us. And our topic of discussion is going to be around self-belief and confidence. Now, this is something I know that is very, very important to us and as listeners, because I know many listeners have written in saying that, how do I become more confident in life? People keep telling me to do things, but I don't think I can do these things. They don't have the belief in themselves. And learning these habits of how do you create this belief is so important. And with us, we have Alex Weber, who specializes in this and has done some fantastic work. I was so excited to have him over and discuss this. And apart from being an American Ninja Warrior, and if you haven't seen that show, it is absolutely amazing. Someone who's into fitness and loves calisthenics, that is a gold standard for me, especially. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you, Alex. Welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Ashdin, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm such a fan of your work. And it's you mentioned American Ninja Warrior. That is a huge piece of my background, both professionally and as a human being, and exploring who I want to be in this life. And confidence and self-belief are a massive part of it. So thrilled to be here.
It's such a nice way that it ties everything in, right? Because of the way that you have to appear for American Ninja Warrior, train for it, and all of that comes together. Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get on this journey?
Yeah. So it's an interesting, this topic plays into my career a great deal because my career has followed what I believed I felt in me that was what I call a fire. So I originally was at an Ivy League university, the University of Pennsylvania, and I was playing Division I lacrosse. And that was my dream up until that point. And doing that experience, my career was going to be going into finance. And then one night when I was a senior there, I just had a very honest moment with what I wanted to do with my moments on earth, which is a question that I think we should ask ourselves very often. And the more that we ask it, the less scary and intense it is, but the more friendly and encouraging and loving it is. What do you want to do with your moments on earth? And I asked that question. I answered it honestly, which is part two. It's not always easy to answer it honestly. And it was at that time, I didn't really know what it was. It wasn't this very well articulated response. It was just something with people. I wanted to perform. And these were two very foreign concepts, especially coming from a Ivy League financial institution. But I listened to it, moved to Los Angeles, and started doing entertainment. And my, brief bullet resume is that I am an award-winning TV host, American Ninja Warrior, and speaker. So I speak at companies and organizations, colleges, schools on self-belief, on overcoming challenges. So yes, this is very dear to me.
I love the transition, right? From finance straight into entertainment, right? And getting in front of people and talking. Such a dramatic shift. What is self-confidence? What is self-belief?
I would say that it is a deep trust in yourself, and that trust, that faith is tested in the moments of uncertainty. So I think that if we're doing something that we've always done, or we know we can do great, that is definitely self-belief and that is definitely self-confidence. But where I think self-belief is really needed, and it's not always there, is when we don't know how things are going to go. We don't know how the future is going to be. We don't know how that date's going to be. We don't know what we're going to do if we lose this deal. Those moments is really where self-belief is.
Fascinating. So, I was just thinking, I was picking up my cup of coffee, right? And I was saying that, all right, there's no self-belief in the fact that I can pick it up. I know I can pick it up. But if I could not have picked it up, if I was struggling with it, that's where you would say the self-belief comes in. So it's that trying moment when there is a self-belief. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, very well put. And I think that is where we either prove to ourselves that it exists or it does not exist. And I say the word prove because, in my opinion, the voices, and I'm just going to umbrella these voices as our negative inner voice, But that's the voice of fear. That's the voice of doubt. That's the voice of anxiety, stress, pressure. They're all in the same family. And those voices, a huge awakening for me was realizing this is an opinion. This is an opinion. And oftentimes, this opinion does not care about logic. It does not care about factual evidence. It simply is very loud and very passionate, meaning it's concerned that I'm going to struggle at something or that it's not going to go well. And because of that concern, it's telling me don't do it or it's going to go horribly. But it is just an opinion. And once we can start to look at factual evidence, and this is something that we'll go into because I know what's wonderful about you and your audience is you want actionable tips. To me, it's something that I call my confidence bank. And it's times where I can reflect back on when I was nervous, when I had doubts, when I was uncertain, but I still did my best. And I know that if I did it then, I can do it now. And as we start to stack that bank, the voice of fear almost seems silly.
Right. It is the more challenges that you put yourself through, the easier it becomes to face something new, right? Because you now know that, I could deal with this, or that wasn't that bad. And hence, the more challenges you put yourself through, the easier it becomes. Love it. Love it. So what is the stage in which people should go through this journey? A lot of people, like I was mentioning earlier, say that I don't have any self-confidence. I don't feel like I'm going and talking to people in my college, or I don't feel like meeting people in the office. I don't know if I'll be able to manage a team. They have all these doubts, like you were saying, right, in your mind. Those are aspects of self-confidence. How do they move from where they are right now to where they should be going?
Yeah, and this is I'm so thankful and excited that we're talking about this. This is something that's very deep to me. I have been given the feedback that I come off very confident, that I have a lot of energy, all of these, which I'm thankful for. I have struggled with self-doubt and nerves my entire life. And I think that that's probably why I'm so passionate about helping other people with it. So to answer your question, which is a wonderful question, if you have, before we even get into the doing, I believe that there exists, before we even get into the amusement park or the gymnasium to hone the craft or prove to ourselves, there is a choice of, do I want to even venture on this? So that is what I would first encourage someone is, can you, even without all of the factual proof just yet, can you choose to believe in yourself that this might be possible? Can you choose to believe in yourself that you might be able to strike up a friendship with a group that you're intimidated by? You might be able to manage this team. You might be able to lose 30 pounds or whatever it might be, reignite the romance in your love. Can you choose to believe that that might be possible? Because then if you choose to believe that it might be, then you're in. And now the next piece is how long it takes and the ups and downs of that journey. And that's a variable, but it will happen. It will happen. I am a big believer that the most powerful force on earth is a person's want. And if you want to do something, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. So another piece that I feel, compelled to, and so I'm sharing a book. My first book is coming out this fall, and it's a lot of this is in it. And one thing that has really helped me, especially with American Ninja Warrior, is something that I call the deep end effect, which is basically, I think that a trap is because we want to do something and because it's unknown or intimidating, we just kind of stay at a safe distance from it and kind of give it a hesitant attempt because it's like, this isn't going to go well. So let me just let me just stay away. Let me try it once and I won't really commit. I won't give my best to it. Let me just, because it's not going to go great. And the truth is that, of course, it's not going to go great. It's your first attempt. But all of that not going great is a constant. The only variable now is that you've still kept it very far from you. You've still made it imposing. It's still daunting. It's still over there. Versus if you dive in the absolute heartbeat of it, meaning you want to strike up a friendship, go directly to the person, ask them if they want to get coffee. Just go for it. And I don't mean to use a cliche there, but what'll happen is, even if it doesn't go great, you're in the middle of it. And there's no more mystery around it. And you'll actually learn, oh, okay, this is what I could have done better. If it's managing the team, you know what? I could have been more communicative. Okay, well, now I know that versus this fog.
Beautiful. So the first step is belief, right? The fact that you can do that. And in fact, there's an aspect of this. If you can't visualize it, you can't see yourself doing it, how do you actually make that step to do it? Right? Like there's so many people saying that it is impossible for me. I'm like, okay, so visualize it. Can't happen. Fake it. Should they fake that image in their mind? Should they think about it in a different way? How should they start with the belief aspect?
Well, I go to this part of it. Two things. One is, and this is very human and something that I am actively working on too. If there is a hard stop of not even allowing ourselves to possibly believe it, then it's even a little bit of a layer deeper.
Right.
And I would encourage someone to explore deserving and worthiness and enoughness and self-love. Because if we're hard stopping and saying, nope, no way, there's something else there. And I've experienced moments of that. So I would just encourage someone to first ask the question, why is this such a hard stop? And try to get pretty specific. Right. Because if it's simply a skill, everything is learnable. Everything, you know? So, you know, if it's simply that you don't have the skill or the opportunity or things like that, those are details. We'll figure that out. But I would explore someone to ask a little bit of a deeper, you know, of why. And then the next, you know, tangible one is something that I call the action belief cycle, meaning you don't always have to have the self-belief. In fact, there's been so many times in my life where I have not had it, or especially with, and this is something that I do love about sports, and American Ninja Warrior is very intense. So it just makes truths more clear. That's what I try to tell people. Because of the intensity of it, it just raises everything, and there's just some truths. So I've had a lot of moments where I'm human, and let's say my diet hasn't been great, or my training hasn't been as great, or, you know, and we'll go into this later, but I was coming off of an injury. And so my self-belief was very low. So what I did, there's an action belief cycle, meaning that actions will push up our belief and our belief will push up our actions. So if at one time you don't have one of the commodities, meaning my self-belief is very low, if your self-belief is very low, that's fine. Simply focus on the actions. And in doing the action, trying to just be unemotional, just do the actions. You'll start to gain a little self-belief simply by the growth of doing the actions. So that's what I would encourage someone to do.
This is absolutely brilliant, because we don't get into that belief thing because we've never tried it. Right? For example, I had never made a video for YouTube ever. I've never been in front of the camera. So I always was shy, never thought about it. So the first time I was like, what's the worst that can happen? Right? I'll fumble, I'll make lots of mistakes. Let's just try.
Yeah.
Right? For the first 6 months, let's just try. Let's see what happens. Right? And this whole concept of let's see what happens, let's try, starts the belief cycle going, right? Because your actions taking place. And then you realize, not so bad, belief increases. Not so bad, belief increases, right?
Yes.
And your skill improves as a result. So from that, from what you were saying, and the second part, which is that tentative tab, when you're trying to just see whether the deep end is actually deep, are you going to give it your all or not? You're learning the skills to take that plunge. And I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. You know, what is that plunge that you need to take? Because you're going to figure it out once you jump in, right? That's why all kids are pushed inside the pool by the swim coaches at one point of time.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah. And I love something that you said, which is so wonderful, was also you said, let's see what happens. And in that, there was almost a gift of exploration of, it does not, you know, there wasn't, Ashdin, you need to hit this amount of, you know, it was a, hey, let's give this a go. Let's see what might happen. And that's kind of a fun approach.
Right. And gamify it a little bit. In fact, just like have a little fun, see, challenge yourself a little bit. Oh, can I do it this way? What are the aspects of fun that I can bring into that? Such an important thing.
I love that.
Lovely. So jumping in, and I'm writing a book as well. So just finished my first edit. And I know exactly what you mean, because this is the first time I'm writing one. So it was just like, okay, let's do it. Let's what happens. Throw yourself into it. Love it. All right. So now you can see confidence slowly coming up, right? Do you
Mhm.
do you take this confidence and move it to different aspects of life? Is it just self-confidence as an umbrella, or is it self-confidence in this and not in this aspect of life? How does it work?
Wow, such a great question. I don't believe that there's any barriers or walls in life. And when I was really doing entertainment as my number one focus and priority, I was also doing stand-up comedy, and I was also coaching a very prestigious high school in Los Angeles, arguably the top private school there. And what I would say to myself is, I'm just changing shirts, meaning I'm Alex, but I'm at this high school and I have a polo on with their impressive crest, and I'm the head coach of their lacrosse program. And then I'm changing my shirt and I'm going on stage and I'm doing stand up comedy, but I'm the same Alex. And so I think that happens a lot in our lives. Our role changes. We're our work selves, we're our relationship self, we're our friend self, but we're just changing shirts. We're the same person. And I actually think that is an exciting thing, because what it means is that we don't necessarily need to look at every part of life and be like, I want to be better across everything. Yes, but that's a
Yeah.
lot. We could simply say, I want to be a better friend. And in knowing that we're being a better friend, that version of ourselves is going to show up as a better partner in our relationship, as a better coworker, as a better person with ourselves. And I think it makes it a little less daunting and a little more
Yeah.
doable.
Absolutely. And what I loved about your answer was that your sense of self stays the same, or your self stays the same,
Mm,
right? You're playing different roles, you're wearing different shirts, right? So the
yeah.
way that you interact with the world changes, but your essence stays the same. And it is that essence that you're
Yeah.
talking about as the self, and being comfortable with it, allowing it to be challenged by situations and allowing yourself to grow through those situations. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Beautiful. Which was your most challenging shirt to wear out of all of these?
um, Gosh, probably the shirt that was just too tight. Sometimes I go through some weird fashion moments. The most challenging shirt was, um, oh, I would say three come to
Okay.
mind. It's just been this. It was just the chapter of
Mhm.
life that depended. One was stand-up
Mhm.
comedy, simply because it is a very difficult. I don't want to say it's a very difficult. It's a daunting
Mhm.
skill and craft to do, and it's one that's ever changing. Meaning, um, it's a very alive art
Mhm.
form. It's a relationship with you and the audience, more so than I would say any other craft. In that there is a give
Yeah.
response, and it's funny that you can perform the same input, you can do the same joke, and the response can be very different night to
Correct.
night, just because of variables. So I would say that shirt was one, and also American Ninja Warrior. And there's a longer story
Mhm.
here, but it really has to do with self
Mhm.
identity. And that's something in the last, and I, part of my work also is in sports psychology and high achieving psychology, and the power of what we see ourselves as, meaning self
Mhm.
identity, is massive, because whoever we believe that we are going to be that idea in
Correct.
everything. So it's really, it's really only come these last years where I realized the impact of that, how much it is. So for American Ninja Warrior, my job had started. I was originally hired by NBC to be a
Mhm.
host. And this was when entertainment was my main, this is what I want to do, is entertainment and stand-up comedy. And so I was hired to be the host. And I was like, this is,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, this 100%. Yeah, let's go. And I was doing it. It was amazing. Part of my job with American Ninja Warrior was not only to be a host who interviewed people, talked about things, it was also to attempt the most difficult new
Oh,
obstacles.
wow.
And I'd probably, yeah, it was
Mhm.
something. And the idea was that I would try them and kind of
Mhm.
comedically fail. So I failed on all these obstacles for 2 years. One interesting thing happened, though, in the second season of the show. the producers, the bosses who are amazing at NBC were like, what if you started to become good at this? And I was like, oh, okay, this sport that Olympic gymnasts are struggling at. Okay. But what ended up happening was I had failed on so many that I had this belief in myself that I would always fail in these obstacles. So what was, I talk a lot about this, is the most difficult challenge was not an external one. It was overcoming this belief that I always fail is a lie, and really proving that truth to myself. Yeah,
because you get into the habit of failing at it, right? Because you were meant to fail at it, and that was your job. And suddenly now you had to win, and that was a twist in the tail, right? It was like,
yes,
he's going to fail. Oh my God, he did it. How? Right? I love that. So it is a mental wiring shift that has to take place, saying that no, I'm not going to fall into the water. I'm actually going to get across to the other side. What was the feeling that you had the first time you completed an obstacle successfully?
Such almost relief, excitement, but it was a soulful. Why I love American Ninja Warrior is because it has proven to me that I truly can do anything, and I believe that you can do anything. The variable is, are we willing to go through of the that stands between us and whatever we want to do? But what American Ninja Warrior showed me is that is simply a choice. And if we decide, I want to get through this jungle, I want to get through this thicket, this mud, I want to bring my machete and whack through this and get muddy and get dirty, and I want to get to the other end, you will do it 100%. But a lot of people start to go, and the jungle either looks too ferocious, or we get dirty, or other people are starting to judge us or make fun of us. So we just kind of put the machete down and we back away. But yeah, the first time I got through one, such deep, I want to articulate this. It felt like I was honoring, without being too grand, it felt like I was honoring my soul, meaning I chose to believe in myself. And that's why I really feel that no matter what happens, to continually choose to believe in yourself, because what it is doing is at the end of this life, whatever we think about this form and this life, you will have honored yourself. You will have not quit on yourself. And I have quit on myself in moments of my life. In college lacrosse, I quit on myself. And I say this word gnawing. Gnawing is one of my favorite words, because the pain that I felt with that was not one time. It was this relentless, just chewing at my heart and my soul that reminded me, you gave up on us. That is worse than any failure could ever do. So I implore anyone listening, in those moments, choose to believe in yourself no matter what happens after that.
Beautiful. Put in your all, make sure that you believe in those moments that it can happen, and you can do it. In fact, that comes to the next question that I had in my mind was, how do you give your 100% to something? American Ninja Warrior teaches you that, because if you don't give your 100%, you're not going to make it. Right? How do you give your 100%? How do you turn that switch to do that?
Oh, such a good question. And, I will say that it's continually been an education, because my go-to was, all right, no matter where I'm at, if my diet's been a little off, if my training's been a little off, if I'm coming back from an injury, if my self-belief is low, whatever it might be, simply show up, which is going into the deep end. Show up. Don't keep it at a distance. There was a year where I trained on my own, even though I didn't know what this sport was. And that was just fear, if I look back at it, because of how imposing it was to go to the gyms beginning. I mean, the Ninja Warrior gyms are part parkour, gymnastics, jungle gym. The community is amazing, but they're intimidating. So my first, what really was this deep end effect, was diving in the deep end. Okay, this is a place where this craft occurs. Same thing with stand-up comedy. I just showed up to comedy clubs. I just showed up to comedy shows. Regardless of what happened, I was just like, okay, I know that if I'm in this, I'll start to figure it out a little bit.
Correct.
What then ended up happening with American Ninja Warrior is the physical piece I was doing all out. Great. I'm showing up and I'm giving my all. But then I started to hit a plateau because of two things. One was self-belief. So that was, I needed to really foster in myself that I could get to that next level. And the other one, and this is one that I only realized leading up to this season, literally weeks before, was I went to a kind of a preliminary competition, kind of like an underground competition that the athletes put on before going to the big competition, like a tune-up. And I did fine, but I talked with one of the really, top Ninja Warriors, and he was like, how much are you strategizing? And I was like, what do you mean? You just kind of go for it. And he's like, no. Like the amount of how specific the top athletes were visualizing and strategizing. I twist here, I put my hand here, I breathe here, I move here. I was blown away. And I'm incredibly thankful, Adam Rail, if you listen to this, thank you for the coaching, Megan Martin, Kevin Carbone, because when they said that, heading into the competition, I got to this place, and this I do feel is really important. I got to this place that I call it's going to be great, which is I have a rough idea of how this meeting will go, of how this date will go, of how this project will go. It's going to be great, and I'll figure it out on the fly. That's about 75%. And I felt that, and then I remembered that lesson, and I was like, no, map it out. And I did do exactly what they said, mapping out exactly hand goes here, this goes here. And it was surreal and very fun to then go on the course and do that strategic map out and it go well. So that was a really big lesson that I am encouraging myself to take into life.
I love it. So there's visualization, there is planning, and then there is strategizing, right? You can visualize it, you can plan, you can train for it, but then the little strategy at the end is like the cherry on the cake. It ties everything together.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes. Lovely. I love this journey of yours through understanding self-confidence. The way that you saying that you first have to believe in it. You have to learn how to get the actions in. You have to put in the work. Realize that you need to jump into the deep end, or you're not going to get there because you're just going to fail. And then you're going to be like, yeah, of course I'm going to fail at this. So committing 100% makes such a difference in the way that you actually show up and create that confidence. And ultimately, like you were saying, it is these hard moments that make you. And it is these hard moments that will create your confidence. So don't shy away from them. Throw yourself into them. Do them as much as you can. Love it, Alex. Thank you so much for coming and discussing this with us. How can people connect with you? How can people learn more about this?
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's, I want to also just say, your insights are so, you nail it. And have such a wonderful gift of taking my passionate rambles and then articulating them so well. So thank you. And my name is Alex Weber. It's 1B in Weber, and I'm Alex Weber on all of the platforms. And please do reach out. I would love to. That is where I got a lot of fulfillment. So if this has meant anything to you, I'd love to answer questions. And
please reach out to Alex. Ask him about self-confidence and what you can do about it. Love it. Thank you so much, Alex, for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you.
So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week. Thank you so much to Cred, CED, and Global Victoria. Without you guys, this thing would not be possible. So, on the note, Maruk Inayat gives us an overview of the potential Twitter ban in India. On this round is on me. Gauri Devi Dayal was joined by actor-producer Poorna Jagannathan to talk about her career in Bollywood, Hollywood, and theatre. She talks about the upcoming season of the show Never Have I Ever. On Cyrus Says, we had legendary musician Usha Uttup. She took us through her journey and shared her experiences as the unconventional musician. In the second installment of the Father's Day special on Akla Station Adulthood, Ayushi has a candid conversation with her father, Siddhartha Meen. On the Global Victoria Tech Talks podcast, we showcase some compelling new tech stories coming out of Melbourne. Whether it's from the buzzing gaming industry or the robust edtech sector, Victoria is increasingly becoming a hub of emerging technology. And we talk to some thought leaders and industry legends about the same. Catch all the action from the World Test Championship on the Edges and Sledges podcast. For our Hindi listeners, we have Khel Niti, which goes live on YouTube every morning. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Feeling overwhelmed, anxious, struggling with too many obstacles, don't know where your life is headed? Well, if you are dealing with one or all of these, tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast, because in each episode, I share a life lesson, a life hack, a pro tip that can help you get your life back on track. All episodes are available on the IBM website, IBM Podcast app, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts from.